Some things you wouldn't mind being stuck with, like a huge inheritance. But a phone that has to be plugged in just right so it charges is not one of those things. Switch to Verizon and we'll pay off your old phone up to $800 via prepaid MasterCard for a new one on us. Just trade in any phone from our top brands with select unlimited plans. $829.99 purchase with new smartphone line on select unlimited plans. Minimum $90 per month with auto pay plus taxes and fees for 36 months required. Place $830 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Trade-in terms apply. Payoff phone requires smartphone purchase and port-in with new smartphone line on select plan. Must provide most recent bill showing payoff amount of eligible phone. Additional terms apply.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipshetz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal, a longtime entertainment reporter, and someone who is not a complete unknown. You are well known in the entertainment industry.
Really? Do you think?
Yeah,
okay.
You are.
All right, let's go with that because it sounds better.
But you know who's not a complete unknown and definitely is Bob Dylan. And
who's this guy?
We've got a few topics we're going to talk about this week, including an interview from a new series, which is a Disney series, correct?
Right. Disney Plus.
I did want to open a little bit with a complete unknown because we talked a little bit about it before the break, but it came out, around Christmas time, and it kind of fell off our radar just because of the timing a little bit. But I got to see it this weekend. My wife and I had a little date night. I don't know if our listeners know this, but I'm a huge music fan, a huge music fan.
The king of vinyl.
Oh, yeah, I stream. But I have a very large music collection between records, CDs, cassettes,
8-tracks.
I do have 8-tracks.
Do
I don't have
really?
any. I do, yeah, and I have a working player. I don't have any reel-to-reel, but in my collection, I have somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 pieces. So I'm like I listen to music day and night. Shameless plug here. If you ever want to check out what I'm listening to, and I do make recommendations, you can follow me on Instagram at instagram.com. My handle is vinyl_Terry, and I just share out what I listen to, like daily and weekly and that kind of
Shameless
stuff.
plug.
But you follow me. You've seen what I've listened to, right?
I do. Yeah.
And I'm a huge Dylan fan. I saw Dylan live in 97 when I was in college. He was doing like a small college tour. They say with Dylan, you might get one of two shows. You're either going to get a good show, like a good Dylan, or you're going to get the bad Dylan who's kind of mailing it in. So I had like a good Dylan experience.
I've had both.
You've had both.
I've had both.
Right.
Yes. And we had one where, did he have the lights on? Mm-hmm. He turned the lights off the stage and turned the lights on in the audience. Huh. You couldn't see him. And I kept thinking, did they have somebody replace him?
Yeah.
Is this the deal? And then he would do mashups where it wouldn't be just one song that you would know the name of the song. So if you're a critic, it is like hell.
Yeah.
You go, how in the world can I write? It was really good when he sang fill in the blank, but then wait a minute, he added on this. So yeah, it was difficult. And he does not banter at all.
There is zero banter. I mean, at the time I saw him, he was about 50, somewhere, in his 50s.
A young man.
Yeah, but so he was still like a more like, I guess, active man. There was no interaction. He got up, he tore through 15 to 20 songs in 90 minutes or so. He did introduce the band, and that was like the most non-singing he did, was just introducing the band. It was a solid show. As I said, I'm a big Dylan fan. I have his complete discography along with bootlegs. So it's like between CDs and vinyl, like I have every Dylan recording out there. So I know his music. And right now I'm actually reading, it would qualify as a textbook. So they have the Bob Dylan Center. His archives are there. A lot of memorabilia. It's kind of a museum, but it's also a learning center. And they published a book. It's called Mixing Up the Medicine. And it's like a 400-page textbook. It's a pretty easy read, and it's a fun read. I've still got a long ways to go to finish it, but it dives into a lot of things too that you see in A Complete Unknown. So I've seen a lot of movies about Dylan. There was a great, Martin Scorsese years ago did the documentary No Direction Home, which is kind of funny. We're stealing from like a Rolling Stone for both titles. He also did another one, which was like a quasi documentary about Dylan's. Scorsese did about the Rolling Thunder Revue concert tour of the mid 1970s. We'll talk about that in a second compared to this, but I really, really, really loved A Complete Unknown. I think this is a good movie. It's not. I think it'll be nominated for an Oscar. It probably isn't going to win. You would know this better than me based on you see a whole lot more, and I know there's other movies you're high on, like Brutalist, and I think also we've done a lot of musician biopics now, so it's kind of like, okay, and there's more on the way. We got the Springsteen one coming later this year. But I thought this was really well done. I thought Timothy Chalamet did a really good job at Bob Dylan. I think Edward Norton, am I like wrong here in thinking he might be a favorite for best supporting actor for playing Pete Seeger?
He would be. He's in the mix, but Kieran Culkin seems to be the one to win it for A Real Pain. Timmy still has a shot.
Okay.
Because they're not all on the brutalist camp. He's a comer. He's somebody they like.
Yeah.
They think that he's very respectful. He pays attention to the past. This is a good look at all that stuff. I think where they back off is that musician biographies are too easy. You know what I mean?
I think the difference here compared to a lot of other films, Edward Norton isn't a banjo player, but he learned to kind of play banjo for the movie, which is not an easy instrument to learn. You know, if you've ever heard Pete Seeger speak or sing, or even what he looks like, he nailed it in every aspect. Timothy Chalamet, like, he learned to play guitar like Dylan. He sings pretty close to Dylan. He has so many of those mannerisms and tics about him. In the hair, I think they were really brilliant. And then the other thing, James Mangold directed this. This isn't his first rodeo, so to speak, with music films. He did, of course, Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash. To me, that's actually one of my favorite biopics of all time. I thought he did an outstanding job with that one too. And we do get Johnny Cash in this also. But, you know, I think about all the movies I've watched. I might put this one on the top. Like the Doors one was really good from Oliver Stone. I love Walk the Line. You know, the Queen one was good. This one, though, may be the best. And what I think doesn't bother me with this one compared to the others, every movie like this takes liberties, right? Because you have to do it for dramatic purposes. And there's some things that people are kind of picking apart, and not necessarily in a bad way, but these are like, if you just follow Dylan a little bit, you knew these things were kind of wrong. But yeah, a lot of folks don't seem to care, because the beauty of Dylan is there's a mythology about him, and he feeds it too. This isn't like the Doors were upset with Oliver Stone's film after it came out, because they're like, they got this wrong and he got this wrong and this was wrong. And like the Buddy Holly story with the crickets, they left one of the crickets completely out of the movie. And even the Queen one kind of either ignored one of the band members or kind of left him in the background. This is different though. And like Dylan feeds into his own myth. You look at when he was nominated and won the Nobel Peace Prize, right? He didn't show up for the award ceremony. They were freaking out if he would even deliver his lecture. Because if you win a Nobel Prize as a Nobel laureate, you are required to give a lecture. Is he going to do it? Isn't he? What if he doesn't do it? Do we take it away? That kind of thing. He did do it. He gave his lecture. The beauty of Dylan is, I think even in Dylan's mind, he probably watched this movie and would have been like, that's all true, or none of it's true. What is it? You know, and I guess they did talk to him a little bit.
He's been supportive. He's been supportive of this film.
You know, one of the things, and I'll throw this right out from the beginning, was the most obvious, the Elle Fanning character, Sylvie Russo, was
amalgam. Yeah.
Right. It's Susie Rotolo, who and everybody knows who his girlfriend was at the time. He wanted it changed because she wasn't a celebrity. She was just a normal person he was dating. Everybody knows who she is because she ended up on the cover of Free Will and Bob Dylan when they were walking down the snowy street in the village of New York. To me, some of the other things were kind of interesting. What were your thoughts overall on the film?
You know what the success is? It's that it doesn't do the whole life. And I think that's where a lot of those music bios go wrong, is they want to do everything.
Yep.
This is a slice. And it's an early slice. So you don't have to have the complete package that we maybe knew later. And you see him not being good. I mean, he's good, but not great. And I think the idea that he's learning helps everybody, because then the expectation isn't there, and you don't have to try and, you know, get sound alikes or whatever it might be. But I think my problem with the film, the only thing I had a problem with is it had too many characters that they were trying to kind of push in. And I think as a result, you don't get so much focus on him. But maybe that's
Yeah.
part of the enigmatic kind of quality he has, where you
Yes.
don't really know him.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh God, now who is that? Oh, Joan Baez. Okay, and who's this one? And that thing bothered me. Can I tell you a great story though that I was told by somebody? He promoted a Dylan concert here in Sioux City, and his father and his father's best friend had gone to camp with Dylan in Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Summer camp, and they said that and these were when they were kids, and he was like trying to play the guitar, and he'd sit in the bunk all the time just playing, and it was bad. But at the time, what do you know? You just kind of ignore the kid and figure, okay, that's what he does. Well, they had a camp picture taken, and the dad was excited because we got a picture with Bob Dylan now, many, many years later. And the friend had the picture. His best friend had this picture. And so he said to the son, can we talk to him after the show and show him the picture and say, we went to camp with you? He said, well, they don't allow that. That doesn't happen. He said, at best, I can let you stand by the door when he leaves and he goes to his bus. And so there are these two older gentlemen standing with this one picture as Dylan's like whisking out. They say, we went to camp with you, and here's a picture of it. He takes one look, he grabs the picture, says, I don't have this one, and he takes it and leaves. And it was the only copy of the picture they had.
Oh, no.
Now, we go, oh my God, we got a Dylan encounter, but he stole our picture.
Oh, no.
Moral of the story, make sure you get a copy of the picture before you let him see it.
I wonder if that picture ended up in the textbook that I'm reading, because there are some photos like that. So he may have taken it, and now it's in the Bob
Look for the
Dylan
camp
Center.
picture.
Yeah,
it could be in there.
I thought, it might be kind of fun to just talk about a couple things that I noticed, just like fact versus fiction, which I think gets to even some of the things that you had mentioned, because they did introduce a lot of characters. Ultimately, they kind of, I think, focus mostly on his, personal non-celebrity relationship, of course, with Sylvie Russo / Susie Rotolo, which I think was important and they needed to do. They obviously had the relationship with Joan Baez. There's been some things floating around, like they didn't quite get that right. They did get the spirit of it. He actually was more interested in Joan Baez's sister first before he kind of got involved with her. So they left that obviously way out and didn't address that at all. They obviously got into the relationship with Pete Seeger. I think was overplayed a little bit. I don't think they were as close as they made it seem to be. Like,
sure.
It's certainly not, they weren't adversaries or anything. Seeger, of course, was a mentor of sorts to Bob Dylan, but a lot of people were mentors. I actually think another folk musician named Dave Van Ronk would be better classified as a direct father figure mentor to Dylan than Seeger was. But I think it's easier to pick Seeger because everybody knows who he is. Dave Van Ronk, he was a little bit older than Dylan, and he performed down there in the Village for years and years. And it was somebody who, like, Dylan would come back and play Madison Square Garden, in like the 80s, and would just show up at Dave Van Ronk's apartment to say hello. I don't quite think he had that same kind of long-term relationship he did with Seeger. They had a falling out, a little bit with Newport. I think they just decided, people know who Pete Seeger is. We're going to like make them the connection.
And you could see the old versus new.
There is a credit in the movie for Dave Van Ronk. I don't even remember him in the movie. Like, that's how in passing it must have been.
Weren't you surprised though how Johnny Cash played such a role?
Yeah.
I wasn't that familiar with that relationship.
Yeah.
And I thought this Johnny Cash was actually better than the Walk the Line. I know. Forgive me, but
right.
I appreciated him more.
It was good. I liked it. They were pen pals. It was interesting. In the book I'm reading, they shared one of the letters from Johnny Cash, and it's kind of comical. It's like being a fan writing to another person, and they finally met at Newport. I think it was Newport 64, but I don't think Johnny Cash was at Newport 65, which is, he was like, you got to get out there and go electric,
sure.
Right? And I don't even think he was there at the time. So that's another thing that they kind of took liberties. And the whole Woody Guthrie thing, There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, he did go to New York to seek out Woody Guthrie. Dylan didn't arrive in New York by himself. He had a friend from Minnesota with him. They didn't like first day land in New York and like gotta get to Woody. It was it took a while. Like he was already established and living somewhere in the village, and then kind of worked to track down Woody Guthrie. So
what people don't realize is that celebrities were more accessible back in the day. There wasn't this kind of herd of go-betweens. And you probably could have gotten to something, because Woody Guthrie, as much as you see him as a legend now, back in the day, he was just another performer.
Dylan did like show up at his treatment facility, hospital. He kind of bounced. Guthrie did bounce from a few different places. So they kind of made it seem like he was in this one place forever, and he wasn't. Seeger was not at the hospital when they met. Like that is just an inserted fiction to kind of add to the drama. I was trying to find out when Woody Guthrie actually lost his ability to speak. It was probably 3 or 4 years later. It was sometime around 1965 was when he finally completely lost his ability to speak. They met around 61. I think they were able to communicate with each other by talking. I've read some things that even in kind of early on when Woody Guthrie was hospitalized, they would kind of have these weekend performances where other folk musicians would come in.
Jam sessions.
Yeah, and I think he still had some ability to either sing a little bit or still perform a little bit. So he wasn't quite as bedridden as he had been when they introduced it. He did obviously die very tragically and very young of Huntington's disease, which was true.
Throw in Bound for Glory. If you haven't seen that film, David Carradine plays Woody Guthrie, and it helps fill in that kind of his part of the story so that you understand where does this come from and why is he seen as this kind of icon for Dylan. Another piece of the puzzle.
Near the end of the movie, of course, when he's playing in Newport and they're throwing stuff at him, I don't think he was pelted with stuff at Newport. I could be wrong, but I want to go back. I actually have the concert DVD officially released of Newport that has a lot of this, and kind of check it out again. But in the crowd, somebody shouts at him right before he dives into Like a Rolling Stone, Judas, and he's like, "You're a liar, right? Play loud." That happened, but not at Newport. It happened a year later when he was touring England. So he was in Manchester in 1966, and he was doing a double set. And what he was doing was, like, in set one, he would go out with his guitar and play his acoustic folk classics, take a brief intermission, and then the Hawks, his backing band, would come up. And the Hawks, most people would know as the band, Robbie Robertson and the band. That was his backing band. And then they would come out, and the stuffy, the stuffy folk fans would sit there angry, and they would shout at him because they would plug in and blare electric. And there was somebody who shouted, Judas, and he turns, "You're a liar." And then he did turn to his band, and I think it was like, play effing loud. And I have it on CD, and they just tear into Like a Rolling Stone. That anger from the folk community existed, but all of this to say, like, I've thrown out a lot of stuff. It was kind of fun still to watch, and I think the liberties they took with it, as I said, they feed into his myth, and that's the fun part of Dylan, is the myth. Like, other people, you might want the straight story, but Dylan, man, is like mythical. One last thing, which is kind of, less important, but I thought was kind of funny. They introduced Al Cooper, which is another one where they kind of threw it in and it was almost too much. But he's one of the best known session musicians and producers of all time. He's kind of semi-retired now, and you would know him. Most people would know him because he was the guy that actually discovered and produced the first 3 albums of Lynyrd Skynyrd. So he's like a well-known dude. He was part of those recording sessions. They made it seem like he was just kind of like ran into the studio and was like, I want to perform. And they're like, "Who are you?" I think he was there on purpose, but they needed somebody to play organ. And he's kind of like not really an organ player, but he hopped on and he did come up with, that iconic start to Like a Rolling Stone. So that was a cool little piece that they threw in there. My wife was not excited to go see this movie, and she really liked it. Go see it. It's a good, fun movie. If you love Dylan, I think you're going to love it. If you like Dylan, I think you're going to love it. And I think even if you don't care, you're going to love it.
Well, very good, Tara.
You like that?
I'm proud of you. That's super. Yeah,
I did my
that's good.
homework.
I'm going back and rewatching. Thanks, because that, you have a different perspective on this than I
Yes.
would. It's good to know. And so often people get very upset when one of their icons is treated in this respect. They do a film about them, and it's like, no, that's not exactly how that goes. But if you're able to realize that they're telling a broader picture, it's to create an aura, if you will, or give you a sense of what the time was like. Maybe it's okay to skip the absolute literal facts of everything.
Did I give you goosebumps?
I did. Well, and I'll get to Goosebumps. I must say I saw Better Man this last weekend, which is the Robbie Williams film where it's a monkey. The monkey is that's a different kind of way of talking about a pop star, rock star, or whatever star. Because I don't think, people don't know, not that many people know who Robbie Williams is. So they wouldn't go, oh, we got to go see the Robbie Williams film. It's not like Elton John. And it gives it a different tone. You're going to a different kind of a movie. So going in, okay, if they're kind of cheating with it, it's very much like the Weird Al Yankovic TV movie, Weird, where that this isn't necessarily true, but it's a good story and it's fun. The idea of putting a monkey in that role, love it. It was great. It was a great idea. And maybe now I actually care about Robbie Williams, whereas before I didn't.
At Verizon, anyone can trade in their old phone for a new one on us with Unlimited Ultimate, which means everyone in your family could get a new phone and stay on your family plan, keeping you close.
Hey, Mom, you seen my toothbrush?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it.
Oh, maybe too close. Trade in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
When you're operating at an enterprise level, nothing drives success more than effective team communication. Grammarly for Enterprise enables your company to work smarter and faster. Other AI tools can't quantify impact. With Grammarly, you get measurable results and actionable insights, like tracking key metrics that include brand compliance and readability from their effective communication score. Because when you're able to visualize your team's impact and compare performance against industry benchmarks, you can make data-driven decisions that improve critical business outcomes. So whether you need to streamline messaging between technical and marketing initiatives or cut down on emails between external collaborators, you can trust Grammarly to help employees communicate effectively across the board. Start boosting productivity company-wide with Grammarly. Visit Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. That's Grammarly.com/enterprise.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yep.
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
Okay, Goosebumps. You ready for Goosebumps?
Yes.
Now we're moving to television because this is a big thing. A Goosebumps series last year starred Justin Long, and he's been nominated for an Emmy for that one. But the Disney people kind of worked with R.L. Stine, the creator of the Goosebumps books, and said, we don't want to necessarily do each one. We want to mash them up so that we can do different kinds of stories. So what they've done is they started with Stay Out of the Basement, added other things from other books for Goosebumps: The Vanishing. And this new one, it has a little more, it's more horror than anything, has a more adult appeal. It stars David Schwimmer from Friends as this dad who brings his twins, fraternal twins, to New York.
Okay.
To live in this house that he tells them don't go in the basement. Don't go in the basement. And they start creating this friend kind of circle. And it has ties to a situation back in the 90s. These kids all get together and they start kind of dealing with this. And what it does is it opens up problems that kids have to deal with today. In each episode, they look at a different crisis that kids might face. but all under this whole umbrella of there are new kids in town. Dad says, don't do this. He has a whole book of list of things he can do. For the kids who play these roles, it was fascinating because they grew up on Friends. They saw Friends as this kind of iconic thing. Now they're working with Friends. And they're like a Friends group, if you will, in the whole process. Okay, so the two who play his children, Jayden Bartels, she's a influencer. She has a big following on social media. So you'd see she's got millions of followers. And then Sam McCarthy, who is the son of actor Andrew McCarthy, play the twins. And so I had a chance to talk to the two of them, and they talk about working with David Schwimmer as their dad.
For the two of you, how do you play twins?
Ooh, I mean, how do we? I think it was a learning process for both of us. Creating a bond was really important. I think part of being twins is kind of like knowing what the other is going to do, knowing how the other acts. So I think getting really close to each other and figuring out each other's little movements and quirks and little things helped for sure. But it was both of our first times, so it was a learning process.
And you can't fake, connection. Like that kind of work, not that it's such a strenuous thing of getting to know another human being and connecting and becoming friends, like that shows when you watch. I mean, hopefully,
Yeah, I hope so.
but like that, or at the very least, the lack of that shows. Put your trust in your partner and kind of walk in with an open heart and see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you have commonalities where did you say, yeah, we're a lot alike, we could be related?
We had commonalities in that we had contradictions. We were different in the way Dev and Cece are kind of different.
Similar to Devin and Cece being polar opposites.
Yeah.
Sam and I are also polar opposites, but also similar to Devin and Cece. I don't know what it is. There is a similarness that runs between them, I think, in how they're acting, their energy, and maybe their power. Yeah. And I think that's also similar with like real me and Sam.
Yeah.
We have that similar.
It'll sneak up on you a little bit because some of the differences might be physically, like on the surface apparent, but then on a deeper level, it's like, we're kind of rocking.
Yeah, we look like well, I guess we do because we play guys.
More like than
other people. Yeah.
Did they try you with different people? Were you paired with other ones to read and see how it worked and what the chemistry was?
Yeah, that's part of, usually the chemistry reads are part of it. I didn't read with any other Devins.
There was one other Cece, and she was great, but
I am the only. I'm so kidding. I think that our connection, and it also has to do with looks and things that people can't control. But yeah,
I just was curious if there was something that clicked with you guys that made that seem to work. You also have different kind of beginnings, Jayden, with your influencer life and all those kinds of things. How does that affect your acting? I mean, if you're making 12 videos in a day, come on, you've got to be kidding me.
So it's interesting. Social media was definitely a big part of my life, but I don't think, because it's not really apparent. I started auditioning and professionally acting and dancing way before I even had social media. So even though doesn't seem like it on the internet, this is actually my first, my first trait, my first skill. Social media came second. Actually, to pursue my acting career, I got social media at like 8 years old to be noticed by casting directors. Yeah. So I think it definitely does influence it. And in my career, I've gone through many routes, but I'm really, really happy to be going back to what I truly love, which is acting in front of a camera for television and feature films. And I'm very excited to be doing it.
Well, they can't say to you, now hurry up, we got to go faster, because you've got proof that you can go faster, right? We can do more scenes in a day. Sam, what was it like having a dad who was in the business?
In one way, it's a really huge help because on a level of the craft, I can call my father at any point and say, Dad, I have no idea how to do this scene. I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And we always will talk shop and work through that kind of stuff all the time. People ask me, is your dad giving you acting advice? And it's like, well, it's kind of been a language of our relationship for like my whole life. And then on another level, I think it kind of gave me, there's nothing secure or certain about being an actor or in this business. And my dad can't like get me a job, but there's something psychological about, oh, well, if he did it, then it must be possible. Some kind of, father-son competitiveness. Not that that's what this is about, but it's kind of given me a belief that it can be done. You know what I mean?
Sure. Did you read his book?
The walking one?
Right.
I've read it twice. Yeah.
Okay, because I wonder if is that hard, being the son of somebody who's so well known by people, or at least we think he is.
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer because it's like, I don't think so. So I don't know. No.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great one and good luck. I'm dying to see more episodes.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
All right, Bruce, thanks for that interview. Really fun to kind of listen to. I did watch the clip a bit, and he does look a little bit like Andrew McCarthy. You can see the resemblance. Yeah, I know. It's fun, and Andrew McCarthy, that's somebody from my era, so it's kind of fun that my kids' era get another little McCarthy there.
St. Elmo's Fire. Come on.
I know, right? Exactly. So we've been having a lot of fun this week. We, talking the movie, Goosebumps, Dylan, all this stuff. But there's obviously been a lot of tragedy this week, and it's really sad what's going on in Southern California with the wildfires. And
it's a tragedy for everybody.
We just hope that obviously everybody can get rebuilt and move on with their lives. And it's really a shame. And it's impacting other things with the entertainment industry.
They were supposed to have the Critics' Choice Awards. They postponed those. They are postponing the Producers Guild announcements. So there's a lot of things that are getting pushed away. And some of the actors are coming out and saying, well, why don't we just do away with all of these award shows and then give the money to fire relief? Here's the problem. Those award shows, they need the advertisements to fuel the awards.
Yeah.
So you can't say, let's just get rid of the Oscars and give the money, because the Oscars make the money on the show. So we still want all those things. And they still need help. They talk about actors, but there are very few who are in that $1 million club. But also, if they're not able to do films, the people who are below the line don't get work either. There aren't caterers. There aren't limousine drivers. There aren't extras. There aren't, it trickles down. It's a bad thing for everybody. And then this will mean for us a delayed schedule for a lot of these movies and shows.
Right.
So it's awful. And I hope that they find a solution very quickly. I know that they're trying to use a David Schwimmer word, pivot, and figure out what they can do next. But, and this is so weird. I've seen pictures of people who had their awards in their house and they're melted.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, not that should mean anything, but look what they have nothing. They absolutely have nothing. Some of those may be able to rebuild a lot more quickly, but it'll still take a number of years to rebuild a house.
Yep.
And then the memories that go. If you lost your vinyl collection, Terry, how do you start rebuilding that?
Well, it happened. My family went through a house fire right after I graduated, not long after I graduated from college. I mean, but these are things like it's really hard. I saw a list somebody had shared out of, like GoFundMe's for the music industry. So kind of along the same lines. I was looking at all these people. You don't know who this isn't A-listers. These are session musicians. These are touring musicians. These are small bands that have not made it, and they're going, streaming paycheck to streaming paycheck to survive. So these folks need help. And as you said, there's a lot of people in these industries. I agree. Like we postpone, like we don't need to have Critics' Choice Awards this weekend. It can
but they
wait
can
a
still
few
be,
weeks. But we need it. We like and I think it says a lot about perseverance and are willing to kind of like overcome things. Like, we're not going to cancel the Oscars. So we'll just delay them, but they'll be back. They'll be fine.
When we had COVID, that delayed a lot of things. And it got a lot of actors to consider, do I really want to be in this business? because I don't have a career if nobody is coming to see me and I can't get work. And I don't want that to happen now because of the fires, that they just say, I'm leaving the business, I can't afford to do it, I'll go sell insurance in Montana. It's one of those things that let's hope that we get through this and it happens quickly. And it took you a lifetime to rebuild your collection.
It's stronger than ever, right? This is
it's got a good Dylan strain, right?
You can get a lot of these things back. It's really hard at the time, but we figure it out.
Our hearts are with them.
Absolutely.
And we hope that all this goes well. And meanwhile, we still have content to see. So it stays on track.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, we appreciate you all listening to this episode and be back again next week with another episode of String and Screen.
Some things you wouldn't mind being stuck with, like a huge inheritance. But a phone that has to be plugged in just right so it charges is not one of those things. Switch to Verizon and we'll pay off your old phone up to $800 via prepaid MasterCard for a new one on us. Just trade in any phone from our top brands with select unlimited plans. $829.99 purchase with new smartphone line on select unlimited plans. Minimum $90 per month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months required. Less $830 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Trade-in terms apply. Payoff phone requires smartphone purchase and port-in with new smartphone line on select plan. Must provide most recent bill showing payoff amount of eligible phone. Additional terms apply.
What is... Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.